Hello, guys, and welcome to episode 8 of the Network Podcast. My name is Sebastiano, but today I'm not joined by Joseph Enzano. I'm joined by my younger brother, Costantino Villano.
What's up, guys? So excited to be here, and hopefully we can have some good talks.
If so, unfortunately, Joe had to cancel for this week. He had some personal stuff to take care of, so we're going to do a last-minute episode. It's going to be a little bit shorter. This is going to be about soccer. So if you don't like this episode, I apologize. We're going to get it back to normal next week. And we're specifically going to be talking about the Euro soccer tournament, which just kicked off on Friday. So for anyone that doesn't know, the Euros is basically like the World Cup, just with only European teams. So it's the same format. The group stage, 16 teams out of the 24 in the Euros advance. And then round of 16, quarterfinal, semifinal, and final. So let's just get right into this, Costa. Let's start with... who do you think is going to win the Euros and why?
So personally, I think that France will win the Euros for this one, but I really hope that Italy wins, obviously, because we're Italian. And just from the first game, I think they had a really good game, played well defensively and attackingly, scored 3 goals. But we haven't seen France play. We don't know what they can bring to the table. What do you think?
Yeah, that's some good insight. I'm a little impressed by that. But yeah, it is a little bit biased also because we are Italian. I'm going to go with Italy as well. I think they're going to win it. You have to back your own team, but also the fact that we've seen some of the nations play and some of the nations haven't quite played yet in the group stage. For example, England, before the tournament started, I did think they were going to underperform a little bit. I don't know why. They have so many great players, so much young talent. You just get the feeling with Southgate, you don't know what he's going to do. They did play today. They won 1-0. We're recording this on Sunday night, for anyone that's wondering, the 13th of June. And they didn't look that great. They got the win in the end. He did make some questionable decisions. But yeah, I'm going to go with Italy to win it overall. I can see France. I think they have to go far. They would meet Italy in the semifinals, which would be a tough game. But what do you think about England?
So I kind of agree with what you're saying, that, people think they were going to underperform, or a lot of people wanted them to win because they're mostly English, but I think that they have so many good players that people just expect them to play well, but they don't have the chemistry as some other teams do.
Yeah, and we've seen that. We're both a little bit too young, but I've heard a lot of stories about how you had the golden generations going through the 2000s and the early 2010s with people like Lampard, Scholes, Gerrard, Rooney, Rio Ferdinand, Ashley Cole, all those types of players, and they couldn't make it work. So I think what's important in the Euros is just, even in any tournament, just having a fully functional team and a team that can work together and work as a unit. Especially looking at the midfield. England, they're still trying to figure out their midfield. Today they played Declan Rice, who was supposed to be the absolute sure starter in midfield, but he was outplayed by Calvin Phillips, who won man of the match. And then they played with Mason Mount in front of them for the majority of the game, which was okay. Calvin Phillips was their best player, but besides that, it seems like they're still figuring things out. They didn't play Grealish, who I believe has to start. They didn't play Sancho, wasn't even on the bench, who I wanted to start as well. What do you think of their starting lineup? Do you think Grealish should have been starting? You think Sancho should have at least been on the bench or should have been starting?
So, I don't know about that because I've heard a lot of people criticize Sterling and they don't want him in the team. But I think that he played pretty good. He did get the winning goal that I heard. It was all Calvin Phillips. He did play really, really well. He was one of the only players that played well. Some of them, underperformed a little bit. As one of them, Harry Kane, he was just non-existent at all. But I think I agree with you. I think Sancho should start, but definitely be on the bench. Because I just don't know how they didn't even have him on the bench.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about an injury, and I was looking. So I could be wrong about this, but that leads me to believe that Southgate just didn't select him at all for whatever reason, which is very surprising. And yeah, Harry Kane, a lot of people tipped him to be their top scorer, which only one game in. But he had a great World Cup. He really did carry them. I believe scored 6 goals, and they went on the semifinals. But for him to completely be non-existent could be a little bit of a worrying sign for them. And Sterling, I was one of the people that said he should be nowhere near the team. And based on the season he had, I mean, me, myself, as well as everyone else, had every right to think that he didn't really have a great season for Man City. For some reason, Pep trusted him in the final of the Champions League, and he didn't play great there as well. But, there are a lot of players that are more in form, such as Foden, Mason Mount, Grealish. Even Sancho started the season off poor, but he ended really, really well. But at the end of the day, Sterling did get the goal, so we'll see. So with England, you think they're going to overperform? Well, I guess they can't really overperform because they're one of the favorites to win, actually. But do you think they're going to underperform them, and where do you see them going out?
I see them kind of going in mid. I don't think they're going to underperform. I think I can see them going to I think they'll just go out of the round of 16 because they're going to have to play a very tough opposition, whoever it is. It's either, who is it, Portugal?
France, Portugal, or Germany.
Yeah, so
if they win their group,
yeah.
That is England.
Obviously Hungary could be one of them, but...
Yeah, you never know in the Euros, only 3 games in the group.
So I definitely think that they're going to underperform, get out in the round of 16 to whoever wins that group. But I think they'll come out of their group with 9 points, win all their games, 1-0, 2-0. Unless Kane can step up, I don't think they'll be going anywhere near the quarterfinals or the semis.
Yeah, speaking of their group, this was their toughest game in Croatia, a team that beat them in the World Cup semifinal in 2018. Even without, maybe that's a good sign for England, actually. This was the best team in their group. They didn't play great, and they still got the win. So hopefully they have Scotland and Czech Republic to improve upon, which should definitely be winnable games for any team that has ambition of winning this tournament. So now going on to my underperforming teams. I do agree. I want England. If Italy doesn't win it, I would love for England to win it. But I do see them underperforming, and this could be slightly contradictory because they might play each other in the round of 16. But I, for some reason, see Portugal underperforming, which I could look like an idiot at the end if they win this because they have a very strong team, back to front, pretty much great players in every position. I don't know why. I just have a feeling they're in a tough group, first of all, and they could not get out of it. I mean, any team, obviously Hungary's tipped to be in last, but when you have France, Portugal, and Germany, France and Germany are going to be tough games for Portugal. They could just lose or maybe even tie those, and when I don't know exactly when they play Hungary, but when you need that game to win, the added pressure, that could just be a little bit too much for them. And even in the knockout stages, if they were to play England and win, I don't see them going to the semifinal and not the final. I don't know why. Of course, I could be wrong. They have a phenomenal team. What do you think about Portugal's chances?
I don't know why, but I predicted them to win the Euros. But now that I'm thinking about it and, starting it off, looking at the teams, how they're playing, I think that they'll go far, but not to the final. Because I think that they just have to go through Ronaldo, and that'll mess them up. Because, they have Ruben Diaz, had a great season for Man City. Good goalie in Rui Patricio. They got Bruno Fernandes, João Felix, obviously Ronaldo. So I definitely think they have the players, the quality in the team to perform. But if they don't work together and get the chemistry, I don't think that they'll do well.
Yeah, that is an interesting point because you look at the Euros last year. I'm sorry, not last year. 2016, yeah. When Portugal did win it all, they were pretty much forcing the ball to Ronaldo. They didn't have nearly as much talent as they had now. They didn't win a single game in 90 minutes, including the final. I believe they tied all their group games because of the Euro rule. They made it in as a third-place team. Won, I think, 1 game in penalties and a few in extra time. And you saw Ronaldo got injured in the final, and they actually looked more of a cohesive unit after that when they weren't kind of worried about, we have to get the ball to him. He's our best player. They were able to just play, use their players to the best of their abilities. So I could see that. But with all these players now, I don't think they're going to be forcing it to Ronaldo. Once again, I could look pretty stupid at the end if they win all this, but I just think they're going to underperform slightly with a team that has so much talent. And for a team that I think is going to overperform or maybe be a dark horse, I'm going to give 2. My first one is Germany, and I know this could be weird because they're a really big nation, but everyone's talking about France and Portugal being the favorites, and Germany's in their group, so they're kind of ignoring them a little bit. They also did not even make it out of the group stage in the World Cup.
Came last, actually.
They did, yeah, they came last with Korea, Mexico, and Sweden, which was a big shocker. But I don't know why. I just have a feeling that they're going to do well. They have great players, people that are coming off some Champions League winning seasons, as well as players from Bayern Munich who had some league winning seasons, the likes of Joshua Kimmich, Leroy Sané. Then you have Werner, who of course is heavily criticized at Chelsea, not really scoring the goals he is expected to. I feel like he'll contribute to the German national team. Once again, I don't exactly know why. I just feel like maybe it's a different team, a different environment. He'll have that pressure of the price tag he had at Chelsea. He'll be a little bit more free with that Champions League win. He'll have a little bit of confidence. Even though he did miss some chances, he played decent overall, created the run for Kai Havertz's goal. Then you have Kai Havertz, Todi Rudiger, who also played for Chelsea coming off the Champions League win. You have the experience in people like Boateng, and I believe Hummels is there as well. Neuer, of course, I believe he just made his 100th cap. They recalled Thomas Müller, who is always really good for the national team, was instrumental in their 2014 World Cup win. So that's going to be my first one. Do you have, how many overperforming or dark horse teams do you have?
I just want to bring up the point you made about Germany. I do think that Werner, it was his first year in England. He has to adapt. People say it's a lot different than any other league. He had Kai Havertz, German as well, Rudiger, but I think when he's around all Germans, like the Bundesliga, I think that he'll, find a place. I don't know if he'll start every game because, I think they only had a couple other attackers. I think they were mostly midfielders and defenders, so I think that he'll start, and honestly, I hope to see him do well because he is heavily criticized.
Yeah, and you say they have mostly midfielders and defenders when their squad list got announced, but in those midfielders with people like, I believe Müller might have been there, Sané, Gnabry, they can play striker or out wide. So do you have another dark horse team that you think is going to do well? If not, I can say my next one and then...
Yeah, I do actually. I personally think that a lot of people are sleeping on Austria for some reason. I just think that, if you look at the team, they have some quality players.
A lot of players who play in the Bundesliga, which is quite a decent level.
Exactly. So that's who I think it will. I think Austria could be, and that's really all I think. Just Austria.
Yeah, Austria, they did have a decent performance against North Macedonia today, winning 3-1. But they have to play... Who do they have to play? Are they in the Netherlands group, right?
Yeah.
The Netherlands and... I just went blank. Ukraine. So
yeah.
I think they should, in that group, especially after the win today, they should make it to the next round. I personally don't think there'll be a dark horse. I think maybe they'll make it to the round of 16, and then they should get out. As you said, they have some decent players. But I'm going to stick with my initial pick before the tournament, which was Turkey, after they kind of got destroyed by Italy and didn't show much attacking intent at all, really. There was one good tackle by Chiellini and a decent save by Donnarumma, but besides that, they kind of stayed back and waited to be attacked. But then, looking at it on the other side, they have some favorable matches in Wales. They should be able to beat Wales. And Switzerland, they're a solid team, but it is a team that they should be able to beat. So I'm going to go with Turkey. Even after that performance against Italy, I'm a little shaky, but I think, they make it out of the group, and then maybe they can get lucky, maybe take it to penalties in the round of 16 or just win. Even the quarterfinal, that for them would definitely be overperforming by their standards. And they also had, I believe, in World Cup qualifications or their recent international games in 2021, they had some great results. So I think hopefully they can carry that into the next two games. What do you think about Turkey?
No, I think that after the Italy performance, they still have a chance because Switzerland and Wales did tie 1-1. So they can just bounce back, win at least one of them. Because I can't see Switzerland or Wales beating Italy at all. I think Italy will come away with the 9 points. Maybe, just not play as well against one of the teams and just tie one of them. So I think Italy will definitely top that group, and Turkey will come in second.
Turkey second. Yeah, I didn't even think about the tie. That is a big result for Turkey. as well, because none of them neither Switzerland nor Wales took maximum points from that game. So that does leave the door open a little bit for Turkey. They have players that performed well, Yilmaz and I don't know how to pronounce the name, Yaziki, I believe it is, of Lille, who of course won the league in France this year. They also have some good defenders, Soyuncu of Leicester, who's had a really good couple of seasons, and then Demiral, who plays for Juventus. They have Çalhanoğlu, who plays for Milan. Just like a lot of the teams that are in here, they may not have a full 11, but some of the smaller nations have got some great players coming off some decent seasons. So even with that opening game, I think they can bounce back, hopefully, against Switzerland, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe it's Switzerland they play next. And if they get even a point there, they'd like a win, but a point there, and then a win against Wales in their last game, or whatever order it is they play them, that should see them make it to the knockout stages. So then let's just talk a little bit about Italy, because of course we are both Italian. Obviously, you're my brother. They looked surprisingly good in their first game. It was actually the first time they scored 3 goals in the Euros, I believe, all time. I was a little bit weary. I said they were going to win before the tournament started, but even then I was kind of like, I'm an Italian fan. They have not lost a game under Mancini, which I believe is 28 games unbeaten. Then after that performance, I am really starting to believe, even though it was only one game, they looked very solid at the back, even with some veterans at center back, Bonucci and Chiellini. Chiellini, for me, was probably my man of the match. They had Florenzi at right back in the first half, who was okay. Di Lorenzo got subbed on for him. I thought he played very well. Spinazzola at left back, one man of the match. Then you have a young, experienced goalie in Donnarumma, who, even though he's only like 23, made his debut at 16, so he has more than enough experience there. In the midfield, you're looking at Jorginho, who, just like some of the Germans, came off Champions League winning season at Chelsea. Very good turnaround under Thomas Tuchel. You have Barella, who I'm a fan of. Verratti is unfortunately injured for the first game, but I don't know exactly when he's coming back. He's going to be back later, which is a creative spark I think they need. Besides him, they have Locatelli, who played, and I thought he did decent. Then up top, on the right, Berardi started. I thought he was okay, but then Immobile and Insigne are going to have to be instrumental for the rest of the tournament, both getting a goal in this first game. And I think if Italy have any ambitions to win, Immobile and Insigne are going to have to be on top form. What do you think? Who do you think they should perhaps start next game? Who impressed you in that first game?
I agree with you thinking Chiellini was man of the match. He had a really good game. Some attacking plays at sometimes, clearly didn't work well because he's a center back, doesn't have the greatest shooting. But I think that
had a couple of 30-yard shots.
Yeah. I think I hate to say it, but I think if they play someone like France who has the pace of Mbappe, that they'll just catch Chiellini and Bonucci out, just go through them and then score. So hopefully that doesn't happen because, they are veterans. They know how to defend those type of players. And I think that, like you said, Immobile and Insigne had a great game. Berardi, he did force the first goal, which was an own goal. So, but besides that, he just didn't play well at all.
I think he played decent, not well
that was
at
a little
all.
too harsh.
I think there could have been better. Looking at the other options on the right wing, in my opinion, and based off who they have at the squad, I think it's really only Chiesa and Bernardeschi. Mm-hmm. Bernardeschi came on for about 10 minutes. He looked horrible. Yeah. I don't really want to see him for the rest of the tournament based off that performance. But Chiesa, he did get a few minutes. Didn't really do too much. I've seen a little bit of him at Juve this season. I would like to see him get a chance on the right wing. I think he could do well, especially over Berardi. They have Wales and Switzerland left. 2 games they should win. So they experiment a little bit, I think changing that position shouldn't affect them too much. Then maybe they could see who's better. Who would you rather see at right wing?
I agree with you. A lot of people thought Chiesa was going to start and were surprised when he didn't. He should definitely be starting, in my opinion. A lot of people I don't think he gets enough credit because he's in Ronaldo's shadow. He had a really great game against Porto in the second leg.
Yeah.
Sadly, or not sadly, but they lost. But he had a really good game. But like I said, he was just in Ronaldo's shadow, so it's hard to get out of that.
Yeah, at Juve, it's always Ronaldo. Sometimes they ignore the other players, but I can't claim I've watched every game of Juve this season, but I have watched a couple games here and there, and he's always looked impressive. I've seen him score some great goals. watching some highlights, so I think he deserves a chance at least. I do understand why Mancini went with Berardi, and also another reason for Italy, they have an experienced coach in Mancini, who I believe won at least one league with Man City, and just he's been around for a while. I think he knows what he's doing. I'm confident in his ability as well as the team's ability. You did mention France, who, according to my bracket and a lot of other people's brackets, Italy would have to play in the semifinal. But at the end of the day, if you want to win the tournament, you're going to have to beat the best teams. It's not like, oh, we want a really easy. You look at England and Croatia last in the World Cup 2018, they had quite an easy route. You had Germany, who England would have played at some point, but they got knocked out. They ended up playing Sweden in the quarterfinals. Then you have Spain, who was also on their side of the bracket, get knocked out in the round of 16. And then they also had a favorable matchup in Croatia, which they lost. So that could happen in the Euros for any given team. Of course, there's going to be some surprises, but I just think, Italy would also most likely have to play Belgium in the quarterfinal, and after their performance yesterday, I think Belgium's going to win their group quite comfortably. But I think Italy definitely has a chance. And let's talk about Belgium now. I feel like I'm saying a lot of big teams are going to overperform, which they can't all overperform. But I feel like Belgium, maybe they're not going to, underperform, not overperform. I believe they're going to underperform a bit. I just think everyone always picks them as favorites for the past 3 or 4 major tournaments, a couple years and a couple World Cups. People are talking about the golden generation. They have the likes of Vertonghen and Alderweireld and Vermaelen at the back, who they are a lot older than they are now. I don't even know if Vermaelen's in the squad. Likes of Kevin De Bruyne, who's injured for the first game. He's their best player by far. Lukaku, Eden Hazard, which no one knows what they're going to get out of him. He's coming off an injury, and he had quite a lackluster season at Real Madrid. So I think they definitely have some great players in their team, but I do not think they're going to win the tournament. I think people's expectations of them will once again be incorrect, and they're going to fall. In my prediction, I had them falling in the quarterfinals to Italy. But even if they are able to overcome that, I don't think they're even going to come close to the final.
I agree with you there. They do have a great goal scorer in Lukaku, who did score 2 yesterday, came off a great season at Inter. But I don't know, a lot of people are saying they don't know why or how Belgium are number 1 in the world rankings. They haven't really done anything to show that. France did win the World Cup, and they weren't first, so I don't even know how that is possible, but I definitely think that Belgium will go far enough, like quarterfinals, semis. We don't know. You got to see who they play. You can't really tell now because you never know which team will be a surprise and which won't. So I think that Belgium will go far, but I don't see them winning it at all.
Yeah, I can't exactly say that, they're going to play Italy. That's how it should turn out, but the beauty of major tournaments, especially when you only have 3 games in the group, and then it's knockout stages, you have one chance. If you don't turn up on the day and the lesser team does, you're just out. So it's definitely not going to go exactly how I predicted. It never does. There are going to be some upsets, so I agree with you there. Yes, the FIFA rankings, which is where Belgium's number 1, never really makes any sense. France won the World Cup. They were there for about 2 months, and then FIFA just we're going to put Belgium first, who haven't won a single major tournament, at least in my lifetime. They always get quarterfinal semis, but are never able to overcome that hurdle. So I believe they're a bit of an overrated team. Next, we talked about the winner. We talked about dark horse, underperforming team. Let's go to some individual awards. First of all, we're going to go with the top scorer award. This could be a little bit biased because some of the games started. But obviously, right now, Lukaku leads it. I believe he's the only one that scored 2 goals. He is one of the favorites. Would you like to go first for this one?
Oh, yeah, I would. Thank you. I definitely think, my opinion, I think Lukaku will win it. Not just because of yesterday. He is someone that can bring it when it's needed. Mbappe, there's just a lot of goal scorers there, so it's hard to pick one from France when there's so many great attackers on that team. There is Ronaldo, but I don't think he'll be as good. Another team that has great goal scorers in Jota, João Felix, Bruno Fernandes when he is up there. So I don't really know, but I think Lukaku will be a top scorer.
Yeah, I think something good that you mentioned that I was also taking into account is the teams like France, as good as Mbappe is, they have a lot of different ways to score goals. You have the likes of Pogba, who had a pretty solid season. He did have an injury, but regardless of his season, he seems to always perform for France. You have Mbappe, of course. Benzema looks like he's injured. I don't believe he'll be fit for the Euros. Griezmann, another one of those players, regardless of how he's playing with his club, he just seems to always turn up for France. You have Giroud, who, once again, always does well for France for some reason. They have a system that works. So as good as those players are, I don't think any of them are going to be the top scorer. Even after today's very lackluster performance, I am going to go with Harry Kane. I think if England has any ambition of winning this tournament or making a deep run, they need the goals from Kane. They only scored one today against who was a tough team in Croatia, but we're really going to have to see against Scotland and Czech Republic. If they want to make a statement in this tournament, they're going to have to put strong performances against those teams, and I think they really need Harry Kane to score. And don't forget, he also won the Golden Boot in the World Cup. So I also want to look at some outside chances that maybe people wouldn't expect. The Netherlands had a solid game today. They won 3-2 against Ukraine. Once again,
2-0.
Yeah, they almost lost. I would have liked to see them tie or lose just to see our first little upset of the tournament. But I don't see anyone from there being top scorer. Memphis Depay didn't score. He had a decent game. Wijnaldum has been on good goal-scoring form for the Netherlands. He scored. I don't see a midfielder being the top scorer. Weghorst scored one, but once again, I don't see him scoring as many as the other teams. For an outside chance, I think I want to go with Immobile, simply because we backed Italy to go all the way, or at least go make a deep run. And as I said before, I think Immobile and Insigne are going to need to get some goals in an Italian team that is not notorious for scoring goals, although they did score 3 in the first game. So I think if Immobile is firing, he can get at least 5 or 6 goals this tournament. Italy will most certainly have a chance. You want to say another outside chance? I have one more.
Yeah. I'm not really sure, to be honest. Haven't given this much thought. I've just thought about the top scorer. So I don't know if this would count as an outside, because it is arguably one of the best players of all time. But I'm going to go with Ronaldo. I think like I said, they have a lot of attackers on the team, a lot of great quality attackers, but I still think Ronaldo will outshine them and do really well for Portugal.
Yeah, that is a decent shout. He scored a hat-trick in the first game against Spain in the World Cup. I think he might have scored one more. And he just, even though he is 36 now, I believe, he just scores goals throughout his whole career. I think that's a decent shout. I was listening to a podcast about a preview with this. Someone did say Werner. And as I said, if Germany's going to perform, they might need his goals, but they're another team, the likes of Sané, Gnabry. He's been scoring some decent goals in his last few seasons for club and country. Müller, as I said, maybe he's an outside shout. Weirdly,
that's a good one.
He was almost the top scorer when they won the World Cup in 2014. So I think, why not? If Germany's going to win it or go far, why doesn't he score a lot of goals and maybe carry them? So also, let's talk about some of the other big nations. We haven't really mentioned Spain at all. What do you think about Spain?
I think they're one of the teams that every single tournament, think they're going to do really well. They make it out of the group stage looking really well, and then they lose to a bit of a worse team. In the World Cup, it was Russia in penalties. So I think that's what's going to happen in this tournament. I think that they're going to win the group, and then in round of 16 or quarterfinal, they're going to lose and just not play well at all.
Yeah, I don't think anyone expects them to do that great in this tournament just because, they don't have the Xavi, Iniesta. I think they have Busquets. He's not as young as he used to be. No Ramos, which is a big miss. They don't have the players they once did have. And if my memory serves me correctly, they had a golden generation. 2008, they won the Euros. 2010, they won the World Cup. 2012, they won the Euros again, unfortunately beating Italy 4-0 in the final. They had players like the players I just mentioned, and then as well as Piqué. I believe Puyol was still playing at that point. Fernando Torres, some players that were in fine form, just playing phenomenally well. But since then, they fell victim to the World Cup winners' curse and went out in the group stage in 2014. 2016, I believe they went out in the round of 16 to Italy in the Euros. Then in 2018, the World Cup, as Costa mentioned, they lost to Russia in penalties, which is just a team like Spain should be beating a team like Russia, especially in the big occasions. So I think they'll have a decent tournament, probably win their group. Their group isn't that great, and maybe make it round of 16 quarterfinals, but I don't think they're going to be that much of a threat for the final, any threat of winning the tournament. Last but not least, I would say out of the big teams, we touched on them a little bit. The Netherlands, how do you see them doing in this tournament?
I see them go into round of 16 and that's it. I think that
not every big country can lose in the round of 16. There's going to be no one left.
Well, for them, I think they're going out in the round of 16. Unless they can perform. They did win today 3-2, but they were up 2-0, and just like that, people say that 2-0 is the most dangerous score in football, but as a big team like Netherlands to be tied 2-2 against Ukraine and it wasn't just like there wasn't time in between the goals. It was like 1-2, just like that.
Within like 5-10 minutes from Ukraine.
I believe it was 73 in the 75th minute. I could be wrong, but I think that. And then obviously Dumfries did grab the winner and late on 85th minute. So that was a huge turning point for them, hopefully, and they can just perform and just score goals. All they have to do is score goals. They do have the quality in attack.
That is how you win.
That is. But I think they should have to score 3 or 4 goals a game, and then no one else will catch them.
I don't think they're going to... I mean, they could score 3 or 4 goals a game, but you look at their team, they would have been one of the favorites probably if Van Dijk was fit. Of course, he was injured this season. He's missing the tournament. Matthias de Ligt, probably their second best defender in my opinion, currently injured. He should be back soon as well. I was impressed with them initially in today's game, but then giving away 2 goals to a team like Ukraine, who is not one of the strongest, nowhere near the favorites for this tournament, is a little bit worrying. They don't have like a main goal threat. They had Depay and Weghorst up top, who played solid, but they're not strikers that get 30, 40 goals a season like some of these other teams have. So I think they could do decent, maybe surprise a couple people, but I could also see them going out early, as you said. I would say quarterfinals, maybe a lucky semifinal. I don't know how the rest of the teams are going to do, how the bracket's going to end up, but once again, I don't see them challenging anyone. All right, so we're getting close to wrapping this up. We're just going to go 2 more categories, the best young player and the player of the tournament. Which one do you want to go for first?
I would like to start with the best young player, and there's a lot of young players in this tournament, obviously. So I think I have to go to England here, and I'm either between Jude Bellingham of England, center mid or midfielder. He got subbed on today, 10 minutes left, and Phil Foden, who, as in this season, won Young Player of the Year in the Premier League for Man City, and I just think he has the quality to do it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. Everyone's pretty much backing Phil Foden or Mason Mount to win it, and you said there's a lot of young players. I am really struggling to come up with any really good young players that have had the seasons that people like Phil Foden have had.
Diaz.
I don't know if Diaz is young enough to win the award.
He's 23, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know the exact stipulations, but that could be a shout. João Felix, I don't know if he's going to have as good a tournament as players like Phil Foden, or else you're looking at perhaps Spain, maybe Ferran Torres. I know we didn't tip them to go far, but he hasn't had the best season for Man City, didn't play that much. He's a young player, has been scoring some goals for Spain in the 2021. Besides that, I don't really know what other young players you're looking at, especially
Mbappe. He's still young enough to do that.
If he's young enough, then yeah. But young, it usually goes to forwards. Young forwards coming from big nations. I don't really see anyone else. Besides, everyone else is picking Phil Foden, so I don't want to go with Foden. I'm going to go for an outside shout, Ferran Torres, which deep down, I don't think he's going to win it, but maybe Spain will surprise some people, and if Spain does surprise some people, I think someone like Ferran Torres is going to have to score some goals. They have players like Gerard Moreno, he's not going to win the young player, but he did have a solid season. He's had a solid couple seasons. So that made no sense. He's had a solid few seasons. So maybe with his help, Spain can go a little farther and Ferran Torres can impress. Besides that, I could agree with you. I could see Phil Foden winning it. But then again, if England are most likely going to be set up for a game against Portugal, Germany, or France, and if that happens, or Hungary, don't count them out.
Know.
They could be going home very early. And I think if they go out the round of 16, they cannot have a young player of the tournament from their nation.
I like Ferran Torres. Obviously, I am a Man City fan. But I think in the beginning, he was playing very well in the Champions League. But then from the mid, he just was non-existent at all. Then towards the end of the season, since they won the league, he started getting more playing time. Scored a couple of goals. I think it might have been a hat trick against Newcastle. One of them was a really nice back heel. So if he keeps performing like how he did in the Champions League in the beginning of the season and at the end of the season, I think that he will go and possibly win the Young Player Award.
Yeah, once again, it is kind of tough because the team has to go far. So, Portugal, one of the favorites. Ruben Diaz could have a chance. Lastly, I'm going to go with best player of the tournament. I think I'm going to go to France. They're one of the favorites, and even with my prediction of Italy winning it all, I believe France would still make it to the semifinal, which I think is far enough to have best player of the tournament. I think it might be someone from the final, but regardless, I'm going to go with a bit of a weird one. I'm going to go with Griezmann. He hasn't had the best of seasons in Barcelona. He showed some glimpses here and there, but as I said before, with France, it seems like a lot of the French players, regardless of how they're doing with their club, they just perform for the national team, and they love playing for the national team. There's a great companionship there, and I think Griezmann's always at the center of it for France. So I think if France wants to, take that World Cup win and, make that even more important, go on to do bigger things, winning the Euros, I think Griezmann's going to have to perform. And, a lot of people looking at Conte, who had a great end to Chelsea's Champions League campaign. Look at Mbappe, young player, fast, great dribbling, very, very dangerous. Maybe people are sleeping on Griezmann a little bit, but I think they're going to need him if they want to win this tournament or even go far.
So I do have a couple for the best player, but one of them I'm going to go with. We haven't seen him yet because he is still injured, but I think Verratti could win this. If Italy go far, I think that he's a very key part in Italy's midfield. And if he performs, comes back, plays well, I think that he will perform well and that they will, if they make it to the final or the semis, like you said, I think he can definitely win that.
Yeah, that's an interesting shot. I was thinking of Italy because that's who we back to win, but I feel like they don't have that one star player, which even though France doesn't have that either, I did pick someone from there. I think if Italy's going to win, they're going to have to be a unit. They're going to have to, get their tactics right, just be a functional team, which sometimes does better in these tournaments. You look at the midfield of Jorginho, Verratti, and Barella. I think they have what they need. They have creativity in Verratti, maybe a little bit in Barella. They have Jorginho's passing ability. He can pass through the lines very well. He can get the ball from the back line and distribute it to the players like Verratti, like Insigne, like Chiesa if he's playing, like Berardi, like Immobile to score the goals. So I think if as good as Verratti is, I would say if Italy were to win it, I'm between Immobile and Insigne. I did give Immobile the golden boot, and Insigne got on the ball a lot more, and he's more of a creative player. So I'm going to go with Insigne if Italy were to win it, and it was going to be an Italian best player to win best player of the tournament. Any other thoughts about the Euros? Any players you think could win best player?
Yeah, I think that even though he hasn't played, another one that has been injured, obviously Kevin De Bruyne, he is a very great passer. He does score, obviously in that attacking role. I don't know about Belgium where he plays, but for Man City, he's the attacking player. He did play striker a couple of times, or false nine. So I think De Bruyne, if he plays well, he's got Lukaku, a great striker. So if he can pass to him, Lukaku will most likely finish it, because I did say he will be top scorer. So if De Bruyne comes back, plays well, He has Lukaku to finish his chances. Obviously, other players, but Lukaku is the main threat in the attack. So I think Kevin De Bruyne could win it as
Yeah,
well.
that is a great shout. I think De Bruyne is more than capable of winning. He's coming off another great season. I feel like I'm naming so many players for all of these, but the last one I want to mention, even though he didn't play today at all, which I think is ridiculous, Jack Grealish. I think he's England's second best player, and if they want to do well, I think he's going to need to perform. As I said, didn't play today, but I think as this tournament goes on and England have ambitions to go far, he absolutely needs to play. So just to pick one player for everything, best player, I'm going to go with Griezmann, because I know I said a lot. Best young player, I'm going to go with an outside shout, Ferran Torres. Top scorer, I'm going to go with Harry Kane. Overperforming team, I'm going to stick with Turkey, Germany. I do think Germany, but they're a big nation, so even if they were to win it all, I think that would be a shock, actually, but it wouldn't be as much of a shock as, let's say, Turkey going to the quarters or the semifinals. And underperforming team, I am going to go with Portugal, which is a bit worrying. But then, if they do play England in the round of 16, one of them has to go out. So I'm going to back England there. So I'm going to go with Portugal for underperforming team. Do you just want to run through all yours?
Yeah, so for top scorer, I'm sticking with Lukaku. Definitely think he will get the goals, as he already has 2. So if he keeps performing like that, De Bruyne comes in, a great passer of the ball, like I said. So for the winner, I think Italy is gonna win it. Overperforming team, I'm sticking with Austria. I just have this feeling in me that they will do well. They did score 3 goals, so I definitely think they have the power,
attacking
fact. Yeah. Underperforming team, I think I'm going with England. A lot of people are putting them too high, but I think that they're gonna go out to Portugal if they do play them, or whoever's in that group. So I think they're out in round of 16. Best young player, I'm sticking with Phil Foden. I love him so much. He's a really great player. Played really great for Man City, and think that if they keep him, he will be one of the best players. And best player, I'm gonna change from Verratti to Kevin De Bruyne, because I think that he will. I don't mean to just do Man City players, but I think Kevin De Bruyne will be the best player.
Yeah, that makes sense. So thank you everybody for listening. This was a different episode. We will be getting those old style videos back. Bringing back the topics, myself and Joe over the internet. If you do want to see another podcast like this, either with my younger brother talking about soccer or talking about something else, let us know in the comments. We can talk about transfers as we look past the Euros and into the club season, closer to the Premier League season. I would like to do some Premier League predictions. Now I did just finish school. I submitted my last assignment today, so I'm really happy about that. Hopefully I can put some more work into the podcast. So be on the lookout on our Instagram. Once again, as always, is at @the_network_pod. I am going to shave my head once we hit 300 followers. So if you don't follow us already, make sure to follow us on Instagram, and hopefully we'll be making the podcast bigger and better over the next few summer months. Once again, thank you, and we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.